clean my glasses.
Hey Mo,
Hey, Ricky with the fancy hat.
don't you love it? Don't you love it? The
I
doctor is
do.
it. The doctor is it.
Yes, yes, we are. And it's a windy Wednesday here
Oh
at
my
the farm.
God.
And yeah.
Storming like crazy here in DC area, man. Like thunder and
Hmm.
lightning and
Same
torrential
here.
rain. Bro, I guess
Power
April
lines.
showers. April showers. April
That's it. But you know what? We get to talk about something really amazing. We're talking about how do we cover our what? Our
crown.
crowns.
Yes.
There it is. And nobody knows better than a blestie how important that is. Because while we're all running around looking for hats for our windy weather, some people are really going through some things and want to have
Yeah.
some beautiful options. And I
Yeah.
think it's important that we sort of talk about this from the philosophical to the actual physical, tangible, what are we doing to support women during this process? And that's what we're talking about today. And really, it's almost like a twofer. We're going head to feet, head to toes, because in the next hour, you're going to meet Dr. Corday Dakota. We're talking about feet.
I
So,
know.
so stay tuned because we got everything from the rooter to the tutor. And Dr. Gaffney, we got Sonya, we got Ricky, and it's going to be a good show. So, hey, y'all.
Show.
Hey.
Great show. So meet our blesties. You know, you've met Dr. Alexea before. She's been on our show a few times and we love her so much. And she's a blestie and a doc, right? And then our friend Sonya from StyleEsteem is a blestie and she makes these amazing, beautiful creations, right? So,
Thank you.
you
Let's
guys,
both tell our
let's
stories.
go.
Yeah.
Tell your story. Tell your story, Sonya.
Sure. So my name is Sonya Keshwani. I'm the founder of StyleEsteem. And the headpieces that you see on Ricky and myself right now, they are the reason that I am here and walking in my purpose today, even after breast cancer. When I went through my breast cancer diagnosis, I was 29 years old and walking into this experience with no family history and certainly it not being something that was on my mind or something that I was looking for. But something that I found by accident, I realized was not normal for my body, and that really put it in me that I need to pursue answers and find out what's happening. And as soon as I got my diagnosis that I have an early stage breast cancer with a triple positive tumor, I immediately started treatment. And at that time, I was living and working in Washington, D.C., probably not far from where you are, Ricky. And I was commuting every 3 weeks to New York, coming home for treatment. And I did that because I kind of needed to have that mental break from work. And I also wanted to be near my family. But during that time where I was traveling back and forth, I actually, started to lose my hair. And I was told by my team, my medical team, that it's a good time to just buy a wig and make sure you're prepared because by the next time you come back, your hair will have started to fall out. And so that's what I did. I started treatment in May and I lost my hair by the first week of June and I started wearing my wig. And I bought this blonde bob cut wig and it was fun and cool and experimental for like 5 minutes before I realized I really don't think I can handle wearing a wig every single day, all day long, especially traveling and working. And I figured like there has to be an easier way to take care of this in a way that makes me feel better and not just more comfortable with my body, but more comfortable with my look. And so I started to search online for headpieces. And what I found was that even though turbans have been around for about 4,000 years now, in this country at least, they only come into fashion when they're trending. And then you see beautiful collections and you see it trickle down into stores, but then when it's out of style, it's really not available in that way. And then going from the high end pieces, I saw on the other end of the spectrum designs that were really targeted exclusively towards cancer patients. And really, it wasn't something that I would have gone for if I was healthy. And I kind of felt like if I wouldn't have worn it as a healthy person, it certainly shouldn't be my solution now. This is a time where I need to feel way better about myself.
Right.
And so I just decided, hey, my background is Indian. we have amazing fashion in my culture. Like if my people can make all these amazing, beautiful clothes, I should be able to pick up a needle and a thread and do something about my problem. So that's kind of what happened. I started going to a fabric shop next to my infusion center in Astoria, Queens. And, every time I went for treatment, I'd go to this fabric shop and I would just kind of spend like 20 minutes or as long as I could stand there. I would spend that time just looking through different fabrics, perusing what they had available, what was new. And every time I saw a fabric, I just kind of tried to imagine a healed life, a more positive life through that fabric. And so if I saw something floral, I would imagine the next time I'm able to travel, maybe I can wear this. I would imagine some holiday party if there was something sparkly or gold. Just thinking about the future through these different textiles became almost a mental health exercise for me unintentionally. But in that process, I, would bring home the fabric. I would take a week to recover from treatment. And in that time, I'd be working full time with my laptop, working from home on one side, and then my mom's sewing machine on the other side. And that sort of ritual led to, the creation of these pieces that were basically my personal turban collection. And the way that these pieces impacted me, it changed my everyday experience where I loved, getting up and getting dressed in the morning, coordinating my outfits. I recognized the person looking back at me in the mirror because she was embracing her style, she was expressing her story, and that was very in line with who I always was. And it sort of became this link for me from my present self to my future self. And so the way that these pieces impacted my journey personally, I really felt like this is something that women out in the world could really use. And I thought that this could be something that could help a lot of people. And so I really wanted to create something where women could shop for headpieces the same way they shop for clothes. And so today, StyleEsteem exclusively is a unique company because it exclusively has turbans according to season and occasion. So spring, summer, fall, winter, day wear, evening wear, knitwear, loungewear, activewear, all the way up to couture, which we launched last year at New York Fashion Week. And the inspiration behind that couture collection was taking a moment to look back in history and to see how turbans have, how they've taken form throughout history within different cultures, religions, fashion trends, and so on. And just reminding everyone who comes in contact with us that, whenever you put on a headpiece, whether, you're watching at home or you're sitting on this panel, we're all part of that fashion history where stories and narratives and struggles and victories are being expressed through style. And I wanted to, remind women that they have royalty in them and that these are crowns. And when you are going through this is not when you're weakest. It's actually when you're the strongest. You are doing things that are unthinkable to the average person, and that deserves to be crowned. That power and that force and that bravery really just deserves to be anointed in something beautiful. And so that's about me, I guess. And I'm really excited to sit down and be part of this panel and to reconnect with you, Dr. Alexea. I know we've done this a couple of times in the past, but
Yeah.
It's good to do it again.
Yeah.
I love this so much. And you never think about the history of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So true. And that's why I say your physical, but also emotional and psychological and metaphysical relationship with your head and with your hair and what we were told growing up about our crowns,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Oh my goodness. It's so amazing to hear your story again, Sonya, and just to have known you from very early in your journey with StyleEsteem and to see where you've come, how far you've come. I'm always just rooting you on and cheering for you, and sitting here looking at you and Ricky and these amazing, amazing head wraps is quite a sight to see. So I'm Dr. Alexea. I am a triple board certified physician. I am a 6 years today, 6-year stage 3. Yeah, it's my kids. crown on.
Life, your life birthday. I call it your life birthday.
Yes. Yeah, right. 6 years life anniversary. Forget, try to
Yeah.
let go of that cancer, try to release it as much as it just comes along with us for the rest of our lives. But
Yeah.
6 years, stage 3 invasive lobular carcinoma, breast cancer survivor thriver. And when I was going through cancer, I could not find women who looked like me. And so I, like many women around the same time who were experiencing breast cancer as a young survivor, as an AYA, began to share my story publicly through social media. And one of the things I wanted to see and know about was, of course, the hair loss. Like, we all, I think, mostly come to terms with the fact that we're going to lose our hair through cancer treatment. And I said, if I have to trade my hair for my life, then I'll choose my life always.
Right.
But
Right.
I faced a lot of challenges around my hair loss. I knew it would start falling out because my doctor explicitly told me, like, day 14 to 16 after chemo starts, your hair is going to start to fall out. And when it first fell out, I lost like a little half of a twist. And I remember posting this picture like, oh, it's starting. But I thought that's how it was going to come out, like strands at a time, more than your, daily comb and brush hair loss. But I didn't realize like I was going to lose like whole quadrants of my hair and how quickly it was going to occur. So, it was late spring when I started chemo, and I was just not prepared as far as what was I going to do with my head for hair loss. I couldn't bring myself to cut my hair off or shave it until I basically looked like Smeagol. So it was just like navigating all these different things. And many of us have experienced being in the cancer center or the infusion suite and seeing those ACS brochures with those turbans and hats and kerchiefs that I wasn't putting on my head, and these terrible wigs.
Trump
And
City,
they're
right? Trump City.
yes. And there's been times where I've like taken pictures of them and sent them to Sonya or tag Sonya in a post like, can you believe they still expect us to wear this crap on our heads? And so I didn't really think about, a head wrap or a turban or some other stylish way to adorn my head. I did scarves and, big head wraps, but those were very hot and uncomfortable in the summertime. I tried wigs, and then eventually I just decided to forego a wig because they were very uncomfortable on a scalp that is very tender, very raw. And it was hot. Like, by the time summer rolled around and by the time I was in chemopause, like the hot flashes, dripping sweats, forget about, keeping the wig on. So my wig ended up in my pocketbook or, riding shotgun with me in the car a lot.
Yep. Yep.
And then I met Sonya. And I met Sonya. Basically, we had like a blind social media mediated date, and I was in one of her photo shoots for StyleEsteem, and we
Oh my gosh, you weren't in one of the photos, Alexea. Let's tell it like it is. You were one of our first models. All of your pictures were amazing. Your smile was gorgeous and still, of course, is.
Thank you.
But yeah, you were one of our first.
It's just your crown, mama. There you go.
Yeah.
So, that has been like an empowering thing, and it's been an amazing thing to, just go through this journey and, understand that you're not going to know everything and you're not going to think of everything, but there is somebody else in this community who has experienced the pain and figured out what their passion and purpose is. Mine's being education, Sonya's being these fabulous crowns and head coverings. And she and I have been able to partner over the years on a number of projects, specifically centering on women of color, and the experience of the hair loss and how to manage it. Because I think it's a very different conversation for us, for Black women, but women of color in general. And our experience can be somewhat different from our white counterparts who are experiencing cancer treatment related hair loss. And so it's so important to be able to have that conversation with people who just get it, who are walking in your same shoes, who aren't complimenting you on how straight your hair is because they got chemo curls, but you're upset because the question is, well, are my curls going to come back? Now I have this bone straight hair.
Right.
And so our lived experiences within the safety net of our community is so important.
And, I think women have all different reactions, but I've had too many women to count tell me, I don't want to do chemo because I don't want to lose my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to, do you want to lose your life? I mean, just the whole concept of losing your hair. And then from babies, we're obsessed with our hair. From babies,
Mm-hmm.
the hair, the factor in our lives. I remember, from childhood for me, and when my hair was very long and my mother would do those Sputnik curlers. So she'd take the hair and put it through one curl and I would look like, this thing this big trying to hair dryer. But I mean, I think we all have stories like that about how the black hair thing is a thing.
Yeah.
And, and you could do anything, but if your hair isn't done, your mama's going to talk about you. You're going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
My grandmother had all these things about your hair is your crown and glory, and cutting your hair, when to cut your hair according to cycles of the moon even, and if you did things that were contrary to that, it's so many things.
Right.
Someone put in the chat interestingly that there are children who face alopecia, and they thought that this would be such an empowering message for them, and an opportunity for them to celebrate their crowns too. And I thought about that in the context of young folks, one, who are battling cancer, but two, children who have alopecia for a number of reasons. And I think this is a movement because, there are things, we're getting better as a medical community, right? There's cold cap, but the success of cold cap, the expense of cold cap.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work on black hair, it doesn't always work on black.
Don't always work on white hair either.
I know, right? Well, one of Amanda's good friends, her daughter has alopecia, and I think she got it at probably age 5. And they've been on a journey. I think she's 8 now, but they've been on a journey with this. What does hair mean to your development, right? So
and that's the thing, it's something that we use to define ourselves, but at what point, how is that something that's imposed upon us, and it just becomes this habit, this force of habit? Because what I find really interesting about Black women is that there's such a level of creativity, not just with hair, but also with adorning the hair, everything from beads and little baubles to church hats. There's definitely not a shyness about it, and I love that. I think that that's incredible. But I think at one point, cancer kind of becomes like peeling back the layers, and sometimes the layers are emotional, sometimes they're mental, and sometimes they're physical, and hair is definitely one of those layers. But I think what we need to just bring home to our brown sisters is that this is a layer, and it's something that does not take away from the core. And when you take one layer off, you can actually put another layer on, or 2 or 3, and you can keep switching it in and out and do what feels right to you, because at the end of the day, you're a human being and you're going through something that is a very human experience, and you cannot rise above that. Every one of us has some challenge, some imperfection, and that's how we were made as people. We were not made as perfect beings. And so I think in those times, it's like the exact time that you want to give yourself that grace to kind of decide what your layers are going to be, and use that to not just tell your story to yourself, but also to feel a little bit more like you're in control and in charge of what's happening to you. Because that's the other thing. I think hair loss, at least for me, I started treatment in May. I did 6 rounds of chemo. I did a year of Herceptin and Perjeta. And within that first 6 rounds, I decided I'm actually not going to talk about this right now, because I personally didn't feel like I could physically handle having conversations and dealing with treatment and all of that. And but I was still out and about in society, and people saw me walking down the street. My relatives saw me in my parents' neighborhood, and they basically were, hey, is something wrong? Is something happening with her? Because she looks very skinny. She looks like she has, no hair. That looks like maybe it's a wig. And it kind of outs you, and it sort of takes away that screen of privacy that gives you your dignity to an extent. And I think if it's going to be taken away, you might as well own it, I think. Because if nothing else, for your sake, it matters. It matters how you feel about it, not just in the present, but when you look back and see how you dealt with it. I think that's something that you can think about, is like, how will my future self feel about this? Will she be proud of these decisions, or should I do something even more for her?
Right.
And that's just who I keep in my heart when I think about how I want to pull through something.
You said something really cool about your hair, not having hair outs you, which is such an interesting shift, because it did.
Yeah.
I, had chemo in the wintertime, so I just wore hats because I was cold, to keep me warm. But when summer came, I could never wear a wig. I just don't have enough hair. I could never wear. When summer came, I just kind of rocked my bald head, but I got so many free things. Like, I would go to street festivals, right? People, so you must have cancer. Let me give you something. And you know what I mean? Like, because it was like a pity party, but it did out you. It did say something about what you were going through. And it's funny, because probably the people that I knew talked about me more than the people that I didn't know. Right.
Yeah.
Strangers were much nicer about it. Right. Which is kind of crazy. But the hair thing, the head thing, that it's a major deal about who we are. And I love, though, the positioning of us, we are queens. And I think that's a really great term of endearment that blessties call each other a lot of times. Hey, queen, I love that term. And we do need to walk proudly with whatever's going on with us, and I think we do, when you have an opportunity to take control, as this gives you, it's just a godsend, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I will say, I grew up with very long, thick hair. And my sister and I were talking about this the other day. Like, we thought something was wrong with us because we have this long, thick, we didn't know how to manage it hair. I was going to say difficult, but it really wasn't. And either my mother would line us up on Sundays and braid our hair, or press it, or you go to the hair salon and get it blown out. And then when they put those Marcells in your hair, and I was a hair shaker when my hair was pressed out. I would let it be known my hair is down my back and I'm swinging it, and I am just feeling myself.
Right.
And I went through the whole relaxer thing and went back to natural in the years before my diagnosis. And so my hair was so thick and beautiful and curly and healthy, and I just loved it. And so to have to part with it was hard. But one of the things I also always did, because as much as I just gave you that whole spiel about loving my hair, I was very insecure. And so I would hide behind my hair. I always had a style with the swoop bangs, or I always, pulled my hair in my face or towards my face. And I stopped hiding behind my hair just before my cancer diagnosis. So to lose it, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be so distraught. And when I started to lose my hair and I really started to fully see myself, I had a different appreciation for my face. Like, oh, okay. It's not the hair that's been carrying me all this time. Now, the eyebrows was definitely helping, because when I lost my eyebrows and my eyelashes, I was like, oh, well, this is another level of this. Now I look sick. But I felt very empowered rocking my baldy. And I remember before a family barbecue, when I had lost all my hair, literally having a standoff with Kennedy in my bedroom as we're getting dressed. Cause she's like, are you wearing a wig? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm wearing a wig. It's really hot out. We're going to be out all day. It's a barbecue. There's going to be smoke. I don't know. So I'm trying on head wraps and different things. And she's like, I just really want you to wear a wig. I just want you to wear a wig. And I'm like, well, why do I have to wear a wig, Kennedy? And she's like, because your bald head is embarrassing, mommy. And it sort of wrecked me a little bit, but I was like, is a teachable moment for my little Black girl who went from loving her hair to hating it because now nobody in school had hair like hers, and now mommy doesn't even have hair like hers. And so we talked a lot about hair and, you know, how each of our hair have different qualities, different colors, different textures, different lengths, different things that we can do with it. And then I had a conversation with her about embarrassment. And so I said to her, Kennedy, like whether I wear a wig or a head wrap or I just go with my bald head, no one at the barbecue is going to be like, oh my God, Alexea should be horrified. She must be so embarrassed walking around with this bald head. And no one at the barbecue is going to be saying, oh my God, Kennedy should be so embarrassed. Her mom doesn't have hair. Like, embarrassment is an inside job. It's an inside feeling, and nobody on the outside is, you know, in their minds or going to verbally subject us to beating us down emotionally, right? So for anybody who's watching who has lost their hair, is anticipating the hair loss, like, it's not a thing to be embarrassed about. And just remember that that feeling of embarrassment comes from within. So just in having that conversation with her, I sort of empowered myself to like say, like, I don't have to hide my head. I don't have to be ashamed of it. And I don't have to show up looking a way that is uncomfortable for me. Like, I don't need to put on a head wrap and it's 80 or 90 degrees out. I don't need to put on a wig that's itchy and hurting my tender scalp. I don't need to be laying lace down with glue and my skin is more sensitive than it's ever been because of the fear of what other people are going to think about what I look like. This is what I look like. I'm owning it. If you want to have a conversation about it, we'll talk about it. If you want to high five me and be like, yo, right on, you're rocking that bald head and those hoop earrings and that red lipstick. If you, you know, I got so much variety of quote unquote feedback from people who I knew and people who I didn't know from a hole in the wall. So like, everything from, oh my God, you know, I'm sorry you're going through this. That's really powerful, really bold for you to just, you know, cut your hair off and walk around with a baldy. And it's a thing that we in the cancer community, like, people get very upset about it when people see them as sick, but then we also get mad when people don't see us as sick. And we have a hard time just accepting and receiving the compliment that somebody was able to see our beauty in the absence of our hair or in the absence of what we think is our only crown, right? You know, we're crowned hair or no hair. And we, you know, we're just crowned with who we are and what we bring to the world and the confidence we exude. And, you know, I want people to walk away from this conversation remembering that too.
Yeah. Well, I think what Sonya brings to the table though is options.
Yes, for sure.
We can choose how we want to show up. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's a really great thing that you know, I kind of built a hat collection. I wish I had these, you know, when but and I'll wear them now. But I think just to have options and to know that you can exercise your options as a woman, as a queen, that you can rock the bald head one day or you cannot the next day. I think that just having the ability to make it a fashion statement. You know, I'm a total shoe fanatic, right? So to me, this is like shoes, right? Like, right? Right. Because even
and you know, Doc, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, my Wi-Fi was patchy. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, Dr. Alexea, I think really answers the question of sort of how do we change our children's perceptions about these, and how do we sort of make some generational changes that affirm our self-worth when our hair is in whatever state it's in or no hair at all. And that really answers the question that I had asked in the chat, which is how do you talk to your kids about one, your cancer journey, but two, how do we change this paradigm so that they understand that they're not just their hair? Because what we're finding in the oncology community is that, you know, hair care products, skin care products can be associated with things called endocrine disruptors, right? And put us at increased risk for PCOS and fibroids and different types of cancers even. And so we need to talk about one, wearing our hair natural, two, you know, embracing, and so many women, so many of my patients never felt they had permission to rock their hair short until they got cancer. And then they realized, you know what, I really like this. Oh my gosh, look at my curl pattern. I didn't realize I had, you know, and they were just ingrained so long for so many years that their hair had to be a certain way. And they actually found they were a bit liberated afterwards. But getting people to that point and making that cultural shift too, to really embracing the pride of one, the journey, which is what I hear you saying, Sonya, like whatever state I'm in, you know, I need to rock and adjust my crown and embrace what I'm going through so that my future self will be proud. But too, Alexea, passing it down to the kids, right? So we're going across the time continuum here of making sure that we as a culture maybe don't repeat some of those lessons.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely have to be careful and mindful of that.
Yeah.
My biggest fear used to be that Kennedy would come home from a weekend with her dad with a hair relaxer. Because, you know, he early on expressed like opposition about me putting very natural styles in her hair, you know, putting little finger coils in her hair that look like, you know, little locks, as opposed to pulling her hair into sleeker styles or having like perfect braids with beads and things like that. And so I, as someone who came home from the beauty salon with a relaxer that my mother never intended for me to have, and having to do that for years, and then just, as you know, fast forward as a cancer patient, understanding endocrine disrupting chemicals, and you know how many toxic fragrance filled, chemical filled products we put on our hair and skin. Like, I overhauled my cabinets when I was going through my treatment, because I had already, you know, understanding I was at risk, changed my diet and started to exercise and, you know, lost weight and did all of these things. And a lot of those things were very counter to my Black culture. The food I was eating was very different than culturally what we would typically be eating. You know, just hair care, skincare products that I'm using are different than what I up with. And so making that change and then trying to strike a balance between instilling healthy habits in my daughter without making her, you know, food fearful or food conscious, or, you know, making her obsess about body weight, or, you know, while also trying to improve her self-image as a young Black girl and just embracing who she is in her natural state. Like, it's a lot. It's like walking a tightrope sometimes. And you know, I just have to remind myself, like, I don't have to be perfect, and she doesn't have to be perfect either. I just want to be a good example and model good behavior, and just exude a confidence that my grandma didn't get to just put on display, because life for her as a preacher's kid growing up in Louisiana was so different than my life, and so different than my daughter's life. And so I'm trying to take I got from my grandmothers and my community and my village, and you know, just coming up with the best that I'm coming up with from my experiences and pass that along.
I find it so interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ricky.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to remark on this, on a couple of things you touched on, Dr. Alexea. So when you talk about self-image, I found it really illuminating when you described how your daughter reacted to you considering wearing your baldy out to that family function. And it struck me really because, you know, often we think about the patient and how, you know, going through hair loss, what that must mean for them, what that does mentally for the patient, and how perhaps they may be feeling disconnected from people around them because they are looking very different and they're going through this really big physical change. But it's also something to be said to consider how the people around us might feel disconnected from us by seeing how much change we're going through. And it's really interesting to me because there's so much history and sort of an allyship within the hair culture, and having this conversation, this sort of commonality around hair with yourself and your daughter, and then that being kind of taken away, I think creates that disconnect in a way. But I also, again, going back to like how also there's traditions outside of hair that's passed down within culture, and how fashion can be part of that, and how that can sort of create that connection again. I mean, from my experience of having created the couture collection last year, it was interesting to me because we created everything from a Punjabi Sikh inspired turban to an African wedding inspired gele. And the messages that we got from people, DMs on Instagram, emails saying, hey, I just came across what you're doing, love it. Just wanted to let you know this couture item, whether it be the gele or the pagadi or some other piece, it really touched me because this is, from my culture, and I've been through cancer, and so has my mother, and we both love this piece, and it reminds us of our roots and how beautiful our roots are, and having that expressed through this idea that you can go through something like this and have a crown on your head at the same time. I found that was surprising for me, that, or at least a pleasant surprise, that struck a chord. And so I love that you use that as a teachable moment. And I hope that, that also helps her have that open mind as she goes forward and faces her own, life situations, whatever they may be, hopefully far and few in between. But I love that you use that moment for that purpose. Yeah.
Well, I think we all grow up with these traditions too, but my grandmother, always had a hat on at church, like you didn't even think about going to church without a hat and gloves, right? But so I sort of grew up with this hat thing in my family. But what I love about these turbans is that you can celebrate yourself, and celebrate yourself and not think about your cancer today, maybe, you know what I mean? It gives you like to control and like be the queen that you are, as what we said in the like, like I'm gonna be a queen today. I'm gonna wear it. And it's almost like how I'm again a shoe person. So literally in my bed I figure out what shoes I want to wear today, and with my eyes closed. And then in the shower I have to find something to wear with them. Now I'm gonna like, okay, what crown am I gonna wear today? You know what I mean? And think about how can I, make this part of my aura and my look, but also my confidence and my statement that I'm making, that I'm a badass for, I'm beating cancer.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. What crown do I want to wear today? And that's a really important part of the sentence, because going through cancer, it really boggled my mind how different I looked from a day-to-day basis, and sometimes on an hourly basis. Things changing, hair falling, skin peeling off, like it was just insane. And well, Ricky is going to turn the story on its head, literally, with a beautiful change. And this is kind of a living example of why we have so many different designs. It's because I don't always want to wear something flowery or colorful. Maybe some days I want to wear black, and you know what? Because you changed, I'm also going to change.
I want that one.
I was just gonna say, can we see some different styles? Let's show some.
Yeah. Actually, I'm in our new studio right now, and it looks very beautiful in the screen, but there's almost like a disaster zone around me with paint and drywall and wood. But we're getting ready to shoot our upcoming collection, an Italy-inspired collection. And so I have all of our new pieces kind of here as we're getting ready for that. So this is one of
what's on that? That's so
the new
cool.
pieces. So this is actually, let me show you this. It's the same style, but in a different color. So these are little appliques that I've hand sourced in India, actually. And this in the middle is like a little Venetian mask inspired applique with a dangling pearl.
Wow.
So that's I love there's a lot of Venice inspiration. Sorry?
I love the orange and pink together too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think we need to have you in that one for the next interview. I think that would look great on you. I mean, to your point, like it's about having the options to be okay with looking and feeling different every day. I mean,
Mhm.
you have the right to that. Like, that's not something you have to ask for. That's something that you can decide you want to do. And you can do that through your style. You can do that through some other way. But that, I think that permission to kind of just be who you are and really use this time to let go of the things that you used to define yourself by and realize that you're not definable. And that's kind of amazing.
I love that. Not definable. I'm
Yeah.
a queen, be whoever I want today. Like, I'm not definable.
Yeah.
I love and it's also really comfortable.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are super
Yeah,
comfortable.
talk about the materials and things too,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know,
Sure.
when, like I think Dr. Alexia said, when you're going through chemo, you have a sensitive scalp,
Yeah,
sensitive
yeah.
tissues, and you know, the other thing is the wigs that you know are provided for women are not
Yeah.
always all colors, all textures suitable for
Yeah.
all hair types, but there's something here for everybody. So tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about how they're made.
Sure. So all of our pieces are made in New York, and I design all of the first of any given design. So I make all the samples, and everything that you see is kind of created with my touch. And so the piece that I was wearing earlier is actually our first triangle scarf, which
Kind of like a
is
bandana. Yeah.
yeah, so it's this big, and it's lined
Gorgeous.
with rayon. It's like a little sunburst color, and the upper is actually inspired by baby hairs. So it's this idea of like that rebirth and that regrowth that we all go through, and just kind of putting a bit of sparkle on it. And so that was the inspiration behind this.
Can you
Another
like throw it
collection.
over to my box? Can you like throw it
Sorry?
over to my box? Can you
Oh my
like
gosh. Open up the chat. Like, I'll
I
throw
know,
it into
right?
a portal for you. I have too
Gorgeous.
many. My husband will actually thank you probably because he's like, how many do you need? And I'm like,
All of them.
Right?
is that a
That's
rhetorical
like
question? Yeah,
There's never enough.
You never count shoes. You never
Yeah.
count necessities. You never count.
absolutely. You tell him. You tell him, Ricky. Another collection within our company that I'm really proud of is actually our activewear collection. And the reason we have an activewear collection is because like I said before, I went through treatment starting in May, going into um, end of August. And one of the most depressing things about going through treatment at that time was just not being able to go outside and enjoy the sunlight, sit by the pool, just like be normal for 5 seconds. And so I created the activewear collection because I wanted to have a line of turbans that were all with a UV 50 protection. And the material that we use is actually lined with aloe vera microcapsules. So it keeps your scalp cool and hydrated while you're outside. And so this is not out yet. This is from our Italian collection, but this is like a marble inspired design. And this is available in a lot of really fun colors and prints on our site. So there's like a lot of variety, including some solids if you prefer that. But this is like there's a lot of fun colors and prints happening with this one. Then we have our couture line, which we came out with the full collection last year, but at this point, every collection that we come out with will have several couture pieces. And so to that end, I'm actually just going to throw it on top of what I already have. This is a
Oh, wow.
2-piece item. So this
That's
is
gorgeous.
one piece, and you can actually wear it with, and we can customize these. This one has hairpins, but we can put a bow tie or something else if you're rocking your baldy and you want to wear this item. So this actually goes right on top. And
I love that. Oh, I love that.
why don't I just, you know.
So Sonia, when you say couture, what do you mean?
So couture is handmade, one of a kind, made to order, bespoke pieces. And so these can also be customized into any sort of fabric, or any like size variation or like small tweaks that you want to make it your own and you want to make it personal. But this piece, I'm really proud of it because I grew up, I don't know if you have watched the Golden Girls TV classic, but I grew up watching the Golden Girls.
Yes.
And I found it hilarious when Sophia Petrillo would just throw on her black her black headpiece when she wanted like the men at the senior center to know that she's a widow and she's available. And so I always found it so like interesting that she would use something like that to send up like the bat signal. And so this piece actually remarks on the idea that, you know, we all face the question of mortality, but we can do it in a way that embraces how we're still beautiful in that moment, still unique till our last breath, still special and incredible. And, you know, each of us has a difference that we've made. And so taking that idea and turning sort of that question into something really beautiful and spectacular is something that this piece symbolizes. So
Wow.
yeah, and this veil comes off and I can just kind of show you the detail.
Wow.
That's
What do you
gorgeous.
think about Kentucky Derby theme?
I think we should do a
Yeah.
Kentucky Derby themed
Oh, we
fundraiser
should.
or something,
I
right?
love a good
Like,
theme.
I
Yeah.
love that. I
yes,
love
get
that.
some fascinators and do some
Yeah.
fun things
Yeah.
here.
I love that. I love that. Well, you know, we spend so much money on our hair too. You know, think of all the products we bought and
Mhm.
all the bad products that we bought that we now
How many we
bad,
use once and throw away? This is not it. Doesn't agree
right?
with my hair. It doesn't do what I
Exactly,
thought
right.
it was gonna do.
Exactly. Or you smell you're like, I don't know how like how it smells or whatever. So this is just
Mhm.
such a great fashion statement for
Yeah.
whether you have hair or not, right? And just
Yeah.
a good, it just makes you feel like a queen. I love
Yeah,
it.
and that was kind of the idea. It's like, you know, we're going through this experience of cancer, but it doesn't at the end of the day define our entire life. It's not who we are as a person. And that was something that was really difficult for me to come to terms with. The first
Right.
few weeks and months that I was in it was really hard because I began to feel like not just a statistic, but a number and a body in a chair and a petri
Mhm.
dish. And that that to me was a really tough experience. But you know, at the end of the day, going through all this, we're still women. We still want to feel beautiful. That never changes. We never want, you know, stop wanting to feel stylish and feeling like a better version of who we are today from, you know, yesterday. And so that's the idea behind you know, wanting to have something that you can invest into, something that is made for the woman and not for the patient, and something that you can wear no matter what. Because at the end of the day, I know very well, like, not everyone is coming with an open-ended budget, and you want to buy pieces that you will love to see. No one wants to have things that you have to cram into the corner of your closet and kind of almost look away from when, you know, you're past this diagnosis, because that's also kind of a sad thing to have things that cause you only pain to look at. And so I wanted something that creates joy and kind of carries your story as you're going through life and through your experiences. And I love the idea of attaching positive memories to clothing as well. I personally, like, whenever I travel, that's the only souvenir I get is like clothing. I'll buy like a beautiful brooch for a turban. I'll pick up some fabric. I'll do something where, you know, I can kind of attach positive memories, and each time I wear it, I remember the good times and I keep adding to them. And so that's kind of what I want these turbans to be, and these headpieces in general is just a way for people to carry the positives with them whenever they put on their crown, just to feel a little bit happier, to have a bit of a smile, and to kind of know that it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wholeheartedly agree with that, Sonya. Like, I still, you know, wear my turbans, and long after I was
Yeah.
treated and my hair was regrowing, I bought more from Sonya's line because, you know, to have different seasons, and I
Right.
still wear them.
Yeah.
Like, if my
Yeah.
hair is not done and I don't want to go out because I don't look cute or I don't look what I feel is presentable, right? Because we
Yeah.
weren't allowed to leave the house if we didn't look presentable. I'll put on my turban, I'll put on some hoop earrings and some lipstick and either let my hair hang through or tuck it up until it is the way I want it to look. So I definitely live in that experience of having something from when I had no hair or as I was going through the regrowth journey, but it's something that I'm very happy to reach back to and put on. But then also just super happy to be on the other side of it, like having my hair regrow and getting used to the way that it is. It's thinner than it used to be, but like I know that if I cut it short, it looks a lot fuller. And I have no problem with taking scissors or clippers to this head. I have no problem with adding to, taking away from, and just being my fully expressed self through my hair. Since the pandemic, I've been wearing scrubs to work, and I basically have committed to not wearing clothes to work, like not choosing an outfit, but definitely choosing my hair every day. And so there's always this conversation with my patients about my hair, and they're always like, every time I see you, your hair is different, because most of my patients I see on a quarterly basis. And I say, it's the only thing in my life that I can control. And in my adult life, in my very seasoned and experienced life, like just being able to say I'm an expert and having a reputation, I don't have to quote unquote look the part anymore. I can just be my fully expressed Black self and do all my Black girl magic, especially with and including my hair, without fear of being pulled into the boss's office. Well, I'm the boss, that's not an issue. But also just sort of,
Love it.
doing what the Crown Act is doing, right? Normalizing Black hair in professional spaces, in formal spaces, and just saying like, this is who we are. This is how we choose to take care of ourselves, adorn ourselves, dress ourselves up, dress ourselves down. And it doesn't deep down inside change who I am at the core. But it is just a little self-expression of who I am. I like to think I'm a little more sparkly and colorful than, than just, my degrees and, what experience I bring to and with a personality and a lived experience. And I love that I can express that. And that is showing up for me in very different ways on the other side of cancer and on the other side of hair loss.
Wow. I love these so much.
Well, alongside the headpieces, like another lesson that I learned, which I think Dr. Alexea is kind of the third part of what I'm about to describe, but like what I learned through going through this diagnosis and the hair loss is that it's really not what everyone says it is. It's not just about, like, hair loss isn't just about your hair falling out. It's about three different things. It's a 3-part journey, and it's what happens in part 1, where you're kind of mentally preparing for the hair loss. You don't know exactly what it's going to be like, if it's going to happen, how much of it is going to happen, how it's going to feel. Then there's the actual process of the hair falling out, which is during treatment, and that comes with its own territory.
That whole process is just traumatic. Right?
It's traumatic. There's nothing in the world that can prepare you to have that experience with yourself of being with your body and having things falling out of it. And there's then the third part of the journey as well, which is the hair regrowth, and that is also part of the journey. It's not, oh, you're okay now, and so you go off into the world. It's a whole other phase where you're relearning who you are. You're seeing yourself, for many of us, in ways that we have never seen ourselves before as adults, with really like a peach fuzz, then a pixie, then a bob cut, and so on, a mullet perhaps, God forbid. But you have to learn to get to know yourself through each of these phases, and you have to also kind of give yourself grace to understand that, okay, there's a new person coming in. I'm going to get to know her like she's my good friend, like she's my best friend. I'm going to find out what she likes, what she doesn't like, what looks good on her, and I'm going to make sure that I keep her happy. And in that way, I sort of learn to walk myself through each of these phases, and also kind of do it with kindness towards myself. But that's definitely something that we focus on our blog, is talking about those 3 phases and what goes into each of them from a wellness perspective, whether it's like a scalp oil massage, or some weather-based tips about what kind of sunscreen should I be wearing, or if it's just like fashion related, how should I dress for short hair, how should I dress when I'm bald, like what will best complement me. These things are all things that we need to be prepared with, and I just didn't feel like that existed in one central place when I was going through it. And so that's something that we have as a resource alongside our headpieces. And the way that Dr. Alexea is talking about, you know, how she sort of came out of it is such a shining example of, you know, what can happen if you kind of go through this process and do it with kindness towards yourself, and you can really be freed from everything that, you know, all the different standards and statuses that you had in your mind before, how you can kind of be almost this higher version of who you're meant to be when you let go of what you think it should have been and just decide this is how it's going to be.
Well, I always say we become better badasses after cancer.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
right? And I think this is
Yeah.
just express it. I love this and give us another way to think about things and
Yeah.
show our stuff. I love this so much. I put the website in the chat in the comments. But you know, how can people find you, you know?
Sure. So our website is a great place to find us. StyleEsteem.com, StyleEsteemShop.com will also
Yeah.
work. We have
Yeah.
it goes to the same place. And you can also find us on Facebook. We're at StyleEsteem Shop. On Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, we're at StyleEsteem. That's two words: the word style and the word esteem together as one word. And alongside the website, very important, we do have a special code that is especially for anyone who's following the amazing work that Ricky is doing. And so that code is touch20 for 20% off.
Wow.
And yeah, so if you know, if anyone needs something, then feel free to use that code. But please follow us on social media and just connect with us. And if you need anything, reach out. If you have any questions about hair loss or any part of the journey that I shared, just email us, send us a DM. We're happy to help.
Wow, and this is a great gift. You know, people always ask me
Yes.
to
Yep.
keep people on chemo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is now the jam man. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for the
And
discount.
then also there's
Yeah, thank you for that.
sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there's also gift cards as well, because I know sometimes it's hard to it can sometimes be hard to give someone something that is so like personal that it sits on top of their head, and
Yeah.
you want maybe the person to
Oh.
pick out something that of their own choice, and you know, you can give them a gift card and they can shop themselves, and that's also fine. But yeah, I mean, we offer like complimentary personal styling virtually, and all those other sort of things to help make it a little bit easier. So like I said, please reach out and use the code touch20 and find your crown, right? That's what
I'm
it's
going
about.
shopping. We're going shopping when we tune up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody who's watching, really go to the
Yeah.
site, check out the number one. The site is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I'm on
I
it
know,
now.
isn't it beautiful?
And I'm just looking, I'm reading the story and looking at the beautiful textures, and it is such a celebration. It is such a celebration. And I think that, you know, this is an example of what can happen as a result of a cancer diagnosis, right? This is what we mean. We talk about turning lemons into lemonade, and we talk about making your stories transformative. But we all know somebody who could benefit from one of these. So go to the site, buy one, buy two, buy three. I mean, they're gorgeous, and I think they're going to really bless somebody. So we definitely, and you can get gift cards. There it is.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. Gift coming. Just pull this up.
Wow.
Thank
Oh
you
my
so
gosh.
much for everything, for showing this
Okay.
site. It's been 5 years now that we've been in business, and it's if you want to hit play, I think in the upper, yes, there you go. This is a video from our couture show last year, and again, everything you see in front of you is a celebration, like the doctor said, and it's a 5-year celebration. This is not how it looked when it first came out, but this has been a journey, and it sort of captures everything we've gone through in terms of how our design has evolved, how many women we've met, like this, how the story has grown and become this very sort of defined thing about us being part of this fashion history. And so what you see in front of you, it captures all of that. And so that being said, like if you're at the beginning of your journey, don't worry about, you know, ending up at the end result right now or quite just yet. Like take it day by day and give yourself love and kindness and be proud of where you're coming from, because that is all something that will lead you to, you know, that end goal of wanting to be happy in your journey, and to perhaps, you know, if you're pursuing something from this, whether you're being an advocate or starting a business, or you're just trying to like tell your neighbor to do their breast self-exam or their gland self-exam, as I call it, it's all one day at a time. Yeah.
Great. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody go to her website, get the 20% off. Thank you so much. And stay tuned for Dr. Corday. She's coming up next. She's
Yes.
our first episode. And what's her show called?
It's called Stepping Forward with Dr. D. So Dr. Corday Dakota is my sorority sister, my breastie, I mean my SP, my soror posse, and she's a blestie. And she is a podiatric surgeon who's going to be talking with some other podiatrists about everything you need to know about your feet. Right? Something that we sometimes take for granted, but that when you're going through chemotherapy, for one, you got to pay special attention to it. But more and more, right? We need to talk about that show too, how to manage and deal with neuropathy, chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy. But this is the head to toe special right here. So stay tuned. Keep it on Black Doctor, and it's called Stepping Forward with Dr. D.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Sonya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for my goodies.
Thank you so much.
Now. I love you,
We hope
Dr.
it's
Alexea.
been relatable and reliable and real. That's what we do every Wednesday night here on Black Doctor. And we're just so thankful. Dr. Alexea, it's always great having you.
Always
and
great
I hope you come back soon. We'll have to have you back soon.
Yes, be back here and I'll see you at the farm.
All right, Sonya, we'll see you. Kentucky
love
Derby,
you.
baby.
See you, blessed. Love you, blessed. Take care. Love you, Mo.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.